Hi everyone, welcome to V podcast episode Me versus MS. Hi Amy, how are you?
Hi, Dr.Art. I'm doing well. Always excited when we get to chat, so I'm ready.
You're ready? So let me give you a brief about the episode.
Okay.
Today we are going to talk about MS, that is multiple sclerosis. It is a disease, neurological disease, which affects the myelin sheath, which is a covering of the nerves, and our own body, like in a simpler words, our own body attacks in some people the sheath and destroys it. It can be in a different region of the body. It can be in brain, it can be in different level of spinal cord, and depending on those, people get symptom. So this is the month of May, which is a month of MS. So that's why we are going to speak about it. And another reason, because you are with me, and I want to celebrate the way you have lived your life, and I'm very inspired by that. That's why I want to tell everyone that you, who is the best person to tell about MS than you. So I'll give the mic over to you, and tell me your story. I'm all ears.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you for such a beautiful introduction. I can think of a few people, and maybe what we can do is listed in the description of the episode. MS has the highest rate per capita in Canada, so there's actually a lot of Canadians who have spoken up and spoken out, and then obviously we've seen the disease be talked about in pop culture with this sort of interesting rise of some celebrities. Either people have always had it and not talked about it and they're just starting to, or the instance is increasing of people getting it. But I mean, I'm happy to be included among the bunch. I do live with multiple sclerosis, and May is MS Awareness Month in Canada, so I'll give you a brief, I guess, because I'm 18 years into my diagnosis. So just to keep the viewers able to free up some time in their schedules and get on with their day after this, I'll give you the brief, the Coles notes, if you will. When I was diagnosed, I was 16 years old. I was a very competitive athlete. I actually I had aspirations to go to the Olympics one day and play women's baseball, women's softball. And I know some of the people on the team, like I played against them back in the day. But that was my dream. I was very like just as interested in learning as I am now. So I was, very school was very important to me. It was described to me after the fact by my doctor that I may have been putting my body under too much stress. When you're young and you have ambitions and you stay up all night studying and then you're working out 4 or 5 times a week and I was trying to get on different baseball teams. I was playing hockey in the winter to stay in shape. And then what I noticed was, even though I was working just as hard as everybody else on my baseball team, my endurance wasn't increasing. Running actually became more difficult the more we worked out. And I said, something's wrong. And I started telling my dad, like, my legs are weird, and I started falling. I was always kind of clumsy as a child. Anybody who knew me would lovingly. My grade 8 teacher lovingly nicknamed me Accident Piron instead of my name. Shout out Mr. Crusoe. But I was falling more than I usually did, and I was like, it was harder to pay attention in class. There were things that were just very different and shouldn't have been, based on the way I was trying to live my life and the degree to which I was paying attention to my health. So I started falling over at my part-time job. I started losing my balance and all of these weird things. And throughout a 6-month period, I went from a very athletic girl to barely, like, I couldn't even climb 8 stairs without being out of breath, lightheaded. And it's not like I gained weight, sure, because I wasn't as active, but I didn't gain that much weight that I couldn't climb 8 stairs. I remember our high school had 3 floors, and I used to sneak onto the elevator. And luckily, I was really involved in the school, and I didn't have a reputation as a troublemaker, so teachers could also see something was wrong with me, and they just let me go on the elevator if they saw me. But like, it was literally that bad. And the whole time that I was going through it, my family doctor kept just saying, like, I think you're just stressing yourself out. I don't blame the doctors. In 2006, we didn't talk about MS being diagnosed this young. Even though that existed too, it just wasn't talked about. It was rare.
even like if to add on to that, even when I was studying,
Yeah.
it was just like a part of a chapter,
Yeah.
it's like a disease that this is there.
Yeah.
We didn't have the extensive knowledge as far as I know,
Yeah. Well, and in India, it's not as common,
yeah,
right?
it is there, but it's not as common as in
Yeah.
Canada.
In Canada, like it's like 1 in 3, they say, or like it's like a
Very
yeah.
numbers are very significant.
Yeah, we literally, it's us, it's the UK, and it's the United States where we have like the highest rates in the world. Interestingly enough, we also have the lowest exposure to vitamin D, which we know is connected to strengthening that myelin sheath, which is the coating of the nerve. You described it very well at the top of the episode, by the way. That's like the only thing I used to add for people is the analogy of like your headphone wire being
So,
your nerves.
yeah, so like whenever I'm explaining my diabetic patient to
Yes.
diabetic neuropathy, I use the same analogy.
Yeah.
Like it is the live wire is inside and insulated sheath is on top.
Is that
So if the
coating?
sheet is
Yeah.
not proper or somewhere eaten, then it can
Yes.
take like extra signals from there, and the whole transmission will be
Yes.
not proper.
Exactly.
And then if the total sheath is gone, then you can get shock, you can get,
Yeah.
and if it is damaged totally with the nerve, like it exposes to the nerve, so nerves get damaged, and once it's damaged, then it's numbness.
It just won't, or it just won't work. You just won't, you'll lose function. So 90s kids will remember when before the age of all these Bluetooth headphones, we had the wired headphones. And that was the easiest way to explain it to my friends. I said, when your headphone wire starts to go and you're like maneuvering it and you find the spots, you don't move your
even
phone
the chargers.
you don't move it anymore because you're like, oh my God, if it moves, the signal won't go. MS can feel like that. And it just depends on how damaged that myelin is and where it's damaged. So for me, I'll fast forward 6 months. At this point, I had gone to see physiotherapist, acupuncturist, massage therapist. I'd seen a doctor. I'd seen another doctor. Oh no, sorry. I only saw my family doctor. And then I had just started the second semester. My school had 2 semesters. I just started second semester, and I get a call. The teacher calls and said, "You have to go to the office. Your dad's here." And I'm like, "Dad, what's going on?" He's like, "Oh, we're going to the doctor." So finally, what had happened was I went to see a foot specialist because my mom said, "Okay, if you're falling all the time, maybe you just need orthotics."
Yeah.
And this lady that fitted me for orthotics, I can't remember her name, but like I'm forever grateful because she took one look at me and she said, either one of your legs is shorter than the other, which is weird because you would have figured it out before you were 16. She said, or something's very wrong with you. Yeah. Like what I know now is because of where my scars were, the left side of my body was numb.
Yeah, so, and it was not getting the sensation from the ground, so your foot was not able to feel the ground.
So, but because of that, and because of me not knowing, our bodies are very remarkable. My body just on its own said, that's okay, you're going to shoulder the weight on the right side. So me standing up, I wasn't actually putting any weight on the left side of my body, and I didn't even know. Like my brain and my body just figured it out for me, and God was probably involved. Yeah. So this lady was like, she pulled my mom aside. Because the other thing too is because I was so young, now I know there were so many conversations that happened when I was out of the room to protect me. Personally, I wish I was involved a little bit more because it would have helped me deal with the mental health side of it. I was very scared. I was very alone. I thought I was dying. Like I literally thought, oh my God, I must have some disease that's never been diagnosed before. And they're like gonna, you know what I mean? Like it's gonna take forever. So MS is in my family. My dad has 4 cousins on his side that have MS. There's different types of MS. So one of them had a really aggressive type. The others have the same kind as me, relapsing, remitting, which is the most common type. We can talk about that in a moment, but that's important because every time I went to go see those specialists, when I wasn't in the room, my dad or my mom, whoever was there, was asking the doctor, hey, MS is in our family. Do you think it could be MS? My mom swears she knew. She said she knew from the first symptom, but she couldn't prove it. And no doctor would listen to her.
Okay. Because it's not that, like you can't just say that, oh, you have
exactly. I call it mother's intuition.
Yeah, like without all the reports and it's very heavy diagnosis to give someone.
Yes, and in 2006 especially, so I'll tell you how they diagnosed me because what this orthotics lady, when I get fitted for the orthotics and she realizes something's wrong, my mom just like pleaded to her and said, Miss, like, Our doctor, I don't think is like knows a lot about MS, which again, family doctors don't know. That's why you
Yeah.
have to go to a neurologist. Yeah. But she said, like, can you just write a letter to him explaining what you've learned from this appointment and just appeal? If you appeal to him, I feel like he'll listen to it more than just, parents who are
Saying, yeah.
concerned and right. Because my mom also understood she was emotional. She's like, maybe I'm wrong, but like, please, like something needs to happen. So this lady literally wrote a handwritten letter and faxed it to my doctor's office. And then the week after that, the doctor said, okay, you know what? If now all these people that she's gone to see are also saying something's weird, let's look into it.
Mm-hmm.
So in my hometown, there was no pediatric neurologist.
Mm-hmm.
This would delay my diagnosis another like 2 weeks, but it would also ensure that I actually ended up with the best care at the end of all this. So there's a silver lining. But so he books an appointment with a pediatrician who specializes in allergies, but also has some knowledge of neurology. That I still don't understand why I went to see this guy, but I'm also grateful to him because my dad pulls me out of school that day. So now we're in second semester. I get the call. My dad's like, yeah, we're going to the doctor. I'm like, okay. We go to the doctor and he does 2 tests on me. One of them, he breaks like a Q-tip in half. So it has a soft side and a sharp side. Sharp. And he's like, I'm just going to poke you, close your eyes. And I want you to tell me, is it sharp or is it soft? In some places, I didn't even feel him poke me. He's like, is it soft or hard? I was like, you poked me? I was like, where? So that was the first tell, surface numbness. The second thing he did was he had me stand up. He had me put my arms out side to side and he said, close your eyes.
So balance.
So I closed my eyes and then all of a sudden I felt his hand on my left shoulder. I'm like, this guy told me to stand up. What is he doing? I opened my eyes and I had actually fallen over to the left. Mm-hmm. So that was how they knew the outside of my foot was also numb because I couldn't even tell. Mm-hmm. So he said, okay, the first thing we need to do is get an MRI. An MRI is the examination. It's the only way they can see the nerve damage. Okay, fine. It had to be on my brain and on my spine. But again, MRI machines are very expensive. The hospitals don't have a lot of them. So the fastest way
at that time.
Yeah, at that time, especially in 2006. So the only way to do it was, he said, we have to admit you into the hospital. So I don't know what's wrong with me. I just started school. My grades had dropped in the previous semester because I was going through all these symptoms. I'm freaking out. I'm like, no, I have to go to school. I have a scholarship. I have a future. Like, I was like, come on, Mr. Doctor. So fine, I'll do it. So they send me to the hospital. I spend 3 days there. I want to tell this cute little side story that I only had one roommate. He was 3 years old and he was there because he was constipated. I don't know his real name. I'm not going to out him, this poor kid. But the reason why I say that is he really loved the movie Cars and he thought he was Flash McQueen. Is that his name? The main car. Yeah. He had the robe, he had slippers, his parents brought bedding for him that was flat. And to
make him more like
to make him more comfortable, but honestly it made me more comfortable because like
I felt like you're not in a hospital, we are just somewhere out. And
and I always worked with children too, so it was like kind of nice that there was like a child around, like and then when he introduced himself to me, he introduced himself as if he was the character, like that's all he told me his name was. So it's just like a nice little side story. Like along the way, I had all these like cute happenings. But so 3 days later, I get my MRI. The MRI comes back, and obviously it showed a bunch of scars. I think there was like about 10 on my brain and maybe 7 on my spine. And so the doctors decide that because there's a neurological problem and there's no pediatric neurologist in our town, now I have to go to Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto.
Oh.
But I was very upset. Like it's day 3. The new semester started. I haven't gone to baseball. I don't know what's wrong with me. They're just sending me for this test. So my mom tells the doctor, don't tell her what's wrong. Just tell her you have to go to the hospital. Personally, that was the worst thing, but I understand why my mom did it.
Yeah.
She thought she was protecting me, but all I knew was now I'm so sick, they have to send me to Sick Kids. Sick Kids at the time was the hospital that we only talked about Sick Kids if it was like my cousin who had pediatric cancer. Yeah. When my cousin had cancer when she was 2, she had to go to Sick Kids. So I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? I have to go to Sick Kids? Like I was like, is this that severe? But really it was just because they didn't have a neurologist in my town. So they send me in an ambulance to Sick Kids. I get there at like 11 at night. My dad always understood that like, if you got me like fries, I was fine. So he found like there was a restaurant that was open in Sick Kids, and he's like, "Hey, look, there's fries." So I was like, "All right, we might be okay here." Always loved French fries. But so they send me to the seventh floor, I believe, of Sick Kids. This is the wing where they put kids when they don't know what's wrong with them until they can diagnose them, just so that you don't infect anybody else if you're contagious. So like my neighbor across the hall, anybody who visited him, they had to put a hazmat suit on. So like my anxiety is rising at this point. I'm like, what's wrong? I'm in the wing where like there's hazmat suits. Teams of doctors keep coming in. They keep doing the same tests. They do blood work. They do a spinal tap. They do another MRI. This is over like a week or two, week and a half. A ton of stuff. They're giving me steroids by IV. So I'm on a bunch of like medicine. Family members are coming to visit and they're crying. And I'm just like, to keep some normalcy, I was like, Mom, can you just like can I have like homework at least so that I can like feel normal and like feel the pressure of school instead of whatever's going on? And she kept calling the school, and the school was also confused because they're like, I don't know any teenager that asks for homework when they don't need to be in class. Like one of the teachers literally said to my mom, like asked to speak to her and was like, I'm not going to fail her, right? Like it's going to be okay. She's like, no, I'm not asking. My daughter's actually the one who's asking for schoolwork. So all of this like goes on for like a week and a half, and then 2 days before my 17th birthday, I meet the woman who would be my first neurologist. Her name is Dr. Brenda Banwell, and I'm saying her name because she's one of my heroes. She had just flown in from Paris, I think. She like literally works with doctors all over the world. Now I think if she's still in the same place, I think she's in a children's hospital in Pittsburgh. But before that, like in my mind, she was the pioneer of the children's MS clinic. I don't know if she was actually the one who started it, but she was like the face of anybody who went to Sick Kids knows Dr. Banwell if they were there at that time. And Lynn McMillan was my nurse, and Connie. Oh no, Connie came at MS camp, but Lynn and Jen. I can't remember Jen's last name. She's the one that taught me how to do my MS meds. But anyways, she comes in, in my like Stewie Griffin Family Guy pajamas. I'm like, okay, here's another doctor. And she says, I have some good news and I have some bad news. And she says, the good news is you're going to get to go home for your birthday. And I was like, okay, well, that is good news. Thank you. That also in my mind was like, okay, maybe I'm
not
getting
going to die.
Yeah, I'm getting the conclusion and I'm going to live to my birthday. So, whew. And then she goes, the bad news is so they weren't even 100% sure. They had to wait 3 more months to actually give me like a confirmed diagnosis. They said, we're like 99% sure that you have multiple sclerosis. My first question was, can I still play baseball? That was like the first thing. I couldn't even walk at this point. Like I was like,
I know.
But to her credit, and this is why I'm saying her name and I'm calling her like my first like hero. People have always talked about that I have a good mindset with living with MS, that I'm positive. I credit that to many things, but one big thing was this doctor never said no. When I asked her, can I still play baseball? What she said was, well, we can work up to that. So right away in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, so I'm not going to die. Check. I get to go home for my birthday. I can play baseball at some point. Maybe this isn't so bad. So my second question was, okay, what's MS? I was like, okay, now you've answered all of my checklist. What is multiple sclerosis? So she kind of like gave me an explanation that day. She sent me home with medicine. But that's the getting to the diagnosis. Some people wait years to get a diagnosis. Yeah. At the time that I was diagnosed, the youngest person to be diagnosed was actually 2 years old. And the whole problem is they don't know how it's caused. Are you born with it? They're not sure. Is it genetic? They're also not sure. They know that there's a higher likelihood if someone in your family has it, that you might get it, but that doesn't tell you much. Like I became very like angry and resentful. I didn't start off positive, but the first like bit of hope for me actually came when I heard 2 things. The first was that there was a camp for kids and teens with MS, and the second was the drummer of a Canadian band called Billy Talent, very, very awesome rock band. The drummer, Aaron Solonique, sorry, Aaron, I'm saying your last name wrong. I always do that. Aaron Solonique, he was diagnosed with MS, I think in the 90s. I think in the 90s. But he had never spoken about it. All that we knew was that Billy Talent the singer had a friend with MS, and that they had written a song about MS, which I didn't even know it was about MS until I believe it was 2000 2007, Aaron writes a public letter and comes out publicly as having MS. Besides Montel Williams and Terry Garr and Annette Funicello, I didn't know of anybody else who had that stature like that, and certainly that was influential to me, that had come out as saying it. I was so inspired by Aaron. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a drummer. That's like, first of all, one of the most difficult things to be, especially in like a band. You're keeping the beat for everybody. He was like almost blind in one eye. Like he started telling about all of the symptoms, and it gave me a lot of hope. So that was like it was a shift for me, and like, maybe I don't have to be an angry,
You're not
emo
alone.
teenager
Yeah.
about this. Yeah, like, and I'm not alone. That's also what MS Camp brought. I could ramble all day, so I'll stop there. If you have any questions in what I said, or to further, we can talk about that. But from there, like, I've been very fortunate to have a very full journey, ups and downs, with a lot of support from family, from friends. I've met a lot of people with MS who are very, very dear to me. Even if like you don't always see them all the time, right? Some of them, like, they live all over the world. I know someone in Germany, a couple young ladies who are just lovely with it. I met somebody from Italy who works for the MS Society, who has a connection. There's a girl in Scotland. All of these connections we found at MS Camp. And then there's all across Canada. I've met people from all across Canada that have it, people from the States. We kind of just keep in touch on Facebook now, but there really is a community of young people. It took me reading that letter from Aaron to then turn around and say, maybe I want to speak about it too. So, but anyways, that's the story of, I guess, how that's how the journey started.
But one thing I want to tell you, like, from there to here, sometimes when I'm with you, when we are going out, when we are like doing things, I sometimes forget that you have MS,
Yes, that's the biggest compliment you could
until
give
you tell
someone
me.
with
Like,
MS.
I still remember when we were going to walk and when we were coming back and you were like lifting your leg, and then I was like, oh, something is wrong. And then it clicked me, oh my God.
You're like, wait, we've walked this whole
Did
time.
I do something wrong?
Yeah, no, but you did it. So
because I thought that I pushed you too much.
Yeah, no. So first, thank you for saying that you forget that I have MS. It's honestly, that's the best compliment.
Yeah.
Because now some people, you sort of have like a...
Like, I don't identify you as that.
Yeah, and I don't
That is one
either.
part of your life.
Yeah, no, thank you. I don't either. The biggest saying that you learn when you get diagnosed is that people will tell you, look, I have MS, but MS doesn't have me, right? It's a neurological disease. It kind of pops up everywhere. And even Dr. Banwell said this to me. In the first like 6 months of being diagnosed, 3 months in, I think it was about 3 months, I had what was called my first relapse. And that was when they actually were, so in 2000, when they were able to confirm it. In 2007, they used to wait until you had 2 attacks before they put you on like medicine and stuff. So they were like, you might have MS. For now, we'll just send you home with a bunch of steroids, prednisone. So my face and like my whole like body's puffy. I look like a marshmallow man. And so imagine like you're 17, you used to be athletic. I was still overweight. It's not like I wasn't chubby, but now I'm like bloated. I have a walker. I used to do the morning announcements, so it was very evident that I was at school. I disappeared for like 2 weeks, and then I just showed up again on the announcements.
Yeah, and you were different.
And I was different, right? Very different. I had a walker this time. I was slow moving. I was like, I couldn't even last full days of school at first. And on top of it all, I had to do physiotherapy, which is fine. But the physiotherapist I had would come to the school, and my exercises were like climb a flight of stairs, like step over a like little like elevation that's like not even
but
like
imagine
like
from
5
playing
inches.
From basketball,
Playing baseball,
baseball to
this. And not just that, like at school, when I say I was involved, like I was on everything from the drama council to track and field, volleyball. I was in the school play. I was on the school improv, I was in the school improv team. I was on the school play later. Like I did the announcements. Like I was everywhere. I was in OSAD. I would just attend after school events because I wanted to. Like I really was, by all accounts, a huge nerd. Like I'm okay with admitting it. I just loved school, always. And so I went from that to like I could barely last a day of classes, and I'd cry and ask my mom would come pick me up and like take me home, and I would just sit there and be like, oh my gosh, like what? How am I ever? What am I? It was like waking up every morning and seeing what you wanted at the top of a mountain, and being like, I can't even walk yet to climb there. But I remember Dr. Banwell saying to me, look, right now, you're going to think about it all the time. the stronger you get, she's like, I promise you, the stronger you get and the farther you get from the original diagnosis, you'll think it just sort of shifts to the back of your mind. It's not like I don't think about, sometimes I forget I have MS too, and that's awesome. But I do remember it when I get tired. I do remember it like when I get stressed. When like for me, like my hormones, women once a month, we all know our hormones go crazy. And for me, that's when like my MS starts to creep in as well. Like I start to feel those symptoms or pay attention to them more because now I'm like I'm feeling down, right? It took a long time to get to that point. So going back to what you said about going on that, we went on a walk. One thing that's been hard for me in my life, and you've seen this with me, when I get tired, this has been the same since I was a small child. My parents said, when you were sick, we never had to take your temperature. We knew because you would get hyper, you would talk more and talk faster. And that is the same for me. So when I get hyper, that's how you can tell, like, oh, maybe her fatigue is acting up, right? I have a problem with pacing myself. I've learned, I promise, I've gotten better. It's both been the thing that set me back and pushed me forward, if that makes sense. Because not having that filter and not means that I also didn't have the fear. So because I was an athlete before MS, I pushed myself and I actually recently just watched Jeremy Renner was on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about that horrific accident that he suffered saving his nephew's life. And folks, if you're listening to this and you need like a pick-me-up, you want to feel inspired, or if you're trying to overcome any obstacle, like literally it could work for any obstacle, go and watch that episode because his mindset was my mindset when I was trying to get over my MS. So let me tell you about the first 3 months. I start with a walker, and I was going to play baseball. My doctor never said I couldn't play baseball. She said, we'll work up to it. So I was like, okay, deal. Easy money. We got this. So I said to my coach, I said to my coach, I was like, I still want to come to practice. And my baseball coach was devastated when I was diagnosed. He was very encouraging and tried to like inspire me to like get back to it. And so he didn't make me a bet, but he made a wager. There was like no money. It was just his like promise. He goes, I was diagnosed February 12th. He said, our first tournament as a team is April 28th, and I bet you'll be playing. So I was like, okay. So now I had my doctor not telling me I couldn't do it, and I had a coach who was setting a goal for me. And remember, I love school. I love learning. I had goals. I was like, okay, now I have my mission. I got to walk and in time for April 28th because I got to play baseball. So I would go to baseball practice. Yes, we did used to practice outside in the winter, rain, snow, we didn't care. We were there. I used to sit on my walker and my mom would come with me and she would play catch with me. So that's how I started. Okay, then when I got well enough, I said, coach, I can stand again, put a helmet on me. And when you hit the ball to the like we call them doing grounders, which is like for fielding practice, they can throw the ball back to me. So that was the second step that we did. So fast forward, so now I'm getting stronger. Now I can walk a bit more. I'm using a cane instead of a walker because I never wanted to use a walker. I was like, no, I want to walk. So, and my walker, just for anybody who's really confused at this point, was more for balance than it was for like strength. The strength never left, thank God, but my balance was terrible. So we get to the end of April, we're in this tournament, and I was still using a walker a bit, like a walker and a cane was like interchangeable. So I literally remember wheeling my walker up to the baseball diamond, parking it. I had like little brakes. I'd call it like I'm put them on lock. I parked it, walked into the dugout, and my coach was like, so do you want to play? I'm like, yeah. So he put me in as the pinch hitter, which meant I didn't have to field any balls. I was just going up to bat and hitting. And so he did it every game. So I got to play baseball through not even 4 months in every day. Every game. I got on base. I think, I don't want to cap here, almost every time I went up to bat, I got on base. Now I couldn't run. I was like limping. One time I hit the ball so far, I decide I'm going to go to second base. So my team is like, everyone's cheering me on when I go to first. Then I turn to go to second and everyone's going, no. Because they didn't want me to be out. But I got to second base. I stood and I turned around. The other team was so confused. They're like, what is going on? Like, this woman can barely like run. Why are you cheering her on so much? But I was like I thought this was my Olympic medal. Yeah. I was like, I don't care if I go to the Olympics, guys. I just got to second base in baseball and I couldn't walk 4 months ago. Yeah. we went back to my doctor. So going back, I had mentioned having a relapse. My relapse was just that I was dizzy for 3 days. And I should have said something after day one, but I was like, oh, maybe it's just whatever. But I'm in philosophy class, and I was like, and all of a sudden the room was like tilting, and I was like, we're learning some really like my brain is being opened by these concepts, but not enough that the ground should be tilting. I was like, something's really wrong here. So we went back and they said I had a little bit of optic neuritis on the right side. I luckily, knock on wood, I have never lost my vision from MS, but the doctor said, okay, now we
It
can
could have
officially
been that,
diagnose you.
yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And so then at this, the reason why I'm telling you this as well is, then I said I was telling her, yeah, when I'm playing baseball, like I'm not up to the standard yet, but like, do you think I'll ever get all my functions back? And my doctor's like, you're playing? Like you're already playing baseball? I was like, yeah, you said I could work up to it, right? She's like, yeah, I thought like in like a year or like 2 years. She's like, okay, like you're ahead of what I thought you would be. And I think she understood in that moment how much of a fighter I was. Like I was just not willing to take no for an answer. And luckily I reserve that stubbornness for when I think there's a wrong to be righted, or my poor husband would have a tough time. But when you were saying that you forget that I have MS, the only time MS really surfaces for me now is when I get really tired, or when I get I think we walked what 3 or 4 kilometers that day. So doing that, and if you add heat or you add stress, like if we were under duress as we were like running away from something for 4 kilometers, you can have what's called a pseudo exacerbation. So there's nothing going on, there's no damage happening to my body, but because my body's agitated, right, by heat, by stress, or by being tired, you weaken a bit, right? So your symptoms start to surface. So all that I need to do in that situation is sit down, stop,
Cool yourself.
yeah, cool my body off. And there's actually, I gotta find the video. I think it's called Kelly Runs. There's a long distance runner who was diagnosed in high school. They filmed her finishing a race and just like falling into her coach's arms, and her coach, and this was their routine, is that she could push her body so much that she could complete the race, but then they'd immediately have to put ice on her body and cool her down because she would be feeling all like she couldn't walk for like at least 4 or 5 minutes. There's a lot of really cool things that can happen with the human body. So we are very miraculous and resilient beings, and I don't even think we fully understand. But if you just do a Google search, folks, you can find so many people with MS who are just kicking butt. Like,
and it's not like your symptoms are mild. You say that they are mild, but I know that they are there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, like not to
Yeah.
like
No,
make you feel that, but to
no,
like
yeah.
to make I feel that it's not you have come a long way. Like,
Yeah, well, so going back to this like positive mindset and me being stubborn, because I never took no for an answer, I accept that MS is serious. I'm not saying it's not. But for me, I was like, well, I don't have Lou Gehrig's disease. I don't have Lyme disease. I don't have cancer. I don't think Lyme disease is terminal, but the other two are. And Lou Gehrig's and MS are somewhat related neurologically. So is Parkinson's. I don't have that. Like, it could be so much worse. That's what I always tell myself. So, I have also been fortunate enough to meet people like Carissa Bott, I think was her maiden name. I'll have to find her married name. I met this woman because I was doing a mud race, because that's what you do when you have a cane, right? Is do a 5K mud race. That's how crazy I was. And this woman was also doing this mud race with a team of people, and she said, yeah, like they all have MS, and her mom has MS, and she said, and they're part of my study. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, are you a doctor, like a research scientist? She said, well, I'm doing research at McMaster, and I'm doing an exercise study. And I was like, you can't exercise when you have MS. Like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, I bet you can. Like, why don't you come and join my study and I'll teach you? So she taught me how to exercise with MS.
okay.
And that just like expanded everything I've ever thought. So is it serious? Yes. For me, I have a big scar on the part that connects the brain to the spine. It's caused a lot of mobility issues, bladder bowel symptoms. Like, I'm open about this stuff. I've advocated in the past, and I used to do a lot of speeches about being a young woman with MS because it wasn't something that was young women weren't speaking about it, young people in general.
Yeah,
now there's
because
a
they feel embarrassed
yeah,
about
now there's a ton. Now there's a ton, thank God. And now even men with MS are speaking up more. Like that was the other reason why it was so important Aaron spoke up, because men with MS have a very tough journey. It happens to women more than men. And when it happens to men, the mental health side of it is really tough because uh, just, it's different. It's different how we treat men and women when they're sick, right? Or at least how we perceive, like people perceive themselves. So for me, even though it was serious, I always got it in my head. And that's why I go back to the first question I asked my neurologist was, can I play baseball? And she didn't say no. That's huge. That was huge for me because she never told me I couldn't do something. That doesn't mean I can do everything.
Yeah.
But it does at the same time mean that if I set a goal, there could be some way of accomplishing at least a version of it,
Okay.
right? And that hope is so important to someone who lives with a condition that's lifelong. There's no cure for MS that we know of, that we've discovered. There are treatments that you can do to stop or slow down the
Limited.
progression.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a progressive neurological disease, even though it's episodic. But to tell somebody that there's hope, yeah, what do you want to do? Let's try to find a way. That's huge. So I credit that bit of wisdom to being the reason why I felt empowered or crazy. I don't know, whatever word you want to use, that even when I had a walker, the TTC is not accessible. Sorry, TTC. Y'all dropped the ball a bit. I understand why. But I used to say, no problem. Wherever I want to go, I'm going to fold up my walker. I'm gonna grip. There's railings on stairs, and even if it takes me 20 minutes, I'm gonna climb up those stairs, and I'm gonna drag my walker with me. So I took something that would stop people from going on transit, and I turned it into exercise. That's weightlifting, right? Your walker in your bag, and that's cardio. You're going upstairs, right? And I also got to see the kindness of people, because sometimes some people would see me do this and go like, no, 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 what are you doing? Let me carry that for you. So they would carry my walker up the stairs for me. But even when I didn't, I got to know every day I was looking MS in the face. What's the title of this episode? Me versus MS. No, it's me conquering MS every day. And I would laugh at it like it was a bully. And I was getting to like rise up, and I was like, yeah, that's right. I'm stronger than you. You can bring whatever you want, MS, whatever day. I am ready for it. I guess if you haven't asked me this question, but people always ask like, what's your advice to someone who's diagnosed or to people with MS, is just don't give up. Do not give up. You never have to stop completely. Even if all you did was take 5 steps today, be proud. You took 5 steps. You took 5 steps when you have a disease that doesn't want you to take a step at all. So imagine, like, what are we in the age of, like, we're in the age of counterculture now, right? We're in the age of people wanting to rise up and rebel. And I've always believed in like a righteous cause. So that if you have MS, you have a righteous cause because your righteous cause is to be as healthy as you could possibly be. And I could talk for like so long. I won't, because I'm not a doctor, about diet and exercise and living a healthy life. But if you become obsessed with your own peace, prioritizing your own peace and good mental health, prioritizing good health, exercising as much as you can, be gentle to yourself, and understand that you're not going to be like winning every day doesn't mean you got to do what you wanted to do. Getting up, getting out of bed, and staring MS in the face with the intent that I will conquer you eventually, that's you winning every day. And then going and, have the water that you're supposed to drink, the amount of water you're supposed to eat your vegetables, like just practicing good health, you would be surprised how much that can at least give you the best possible opportunity to then fight this thing. So that's it, I guess, folks. If you were in for a roller coaster, you got it. Is there anything left to say, Dr. Art, or any final questions, I guess?
No, I'm just listening because it is so inspiring, But I think we are at the end of our episode,
No
and
problem.
to conclude, I would say that like you have inspired, like I have been inspired by another level with this episode. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I have listened to it maybe 2 or 3 times, but still, whenever I listen, I get motivated more. Like
Yeah.
I can do so many things.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Art.
So any obstacle can be overcome if we
Yeah.
have the will and the support of our loved one.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And again, there's so many
And
like
I'm very proud to be your sister.
Thank you.
So with this, I think we can conclude our episode. Just you can only conquer your fears. That's it. I want to say.
That's right. That's right. MS doesn't. You have MS, but MS doesn't have you.
So one for my city, two for my city. God knows what I wouldn't do for my city. Three for my city, four for my city. No, I'm the one who'd go to war for my city. Five for my city, six is my city. Holla at me if y'all vibe with my city. Come try on my city, don't you lie in my city. Symbol of truth, I'll fight for my city.
The West East podcast is part of the We campaign, also known as Anti-East Indian Hate Campaign by Vairagya Entertainment. You can weigh in on the conversation in the meantime in our comments section or on our social media. You can also visit www.imshivam.net/w.e. Remember, Vasudev Kutumbakam. We are all one family. Until next time.